Yes, ma'am. I'm good.
Councilman Essex, is he going to be virtual?
He's going to be virtual, yes, ma'am. Councilwoman Danley is going to be a little, oh, she's here now. She just came through the door. I'll let you know, Councilman Watt said he may not be on at all. I already briefed Councilman Davis about the items because he's the vice chair for it. So I'll let you know. Oh, yes, ma'am. Recreation, culture, yes, ma'am. Yes, yes, ma'am. So I already told city clerk, Miss Vicky, about that, and then I'm trying to log on now to see if Councilman Watt. I know Councilman Estes for sure. Councilman Watt just said he may not be able to. My glasses are all just fogged up. Yes, ma'am. That works. Yes, ma'am. No. Is she here? Okay. No, you want to forward me the email whenever you get time, and then I can follow up. Yeah. But I see. Said she followed up with you again. I'll talk to her. Okay. I'll tell them when they get to that item. Sure.
We'll call to order the City of Douglasville's legislative work session for tonight, which is February the 11th. Our invocation will be done by Pastor Gene Fields of Heritage Baptist Church. Good to see you again, Pastor. And then our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Terry Miller. Please stand for the invocation.
Let's pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we can come in this place, Father, come before you and just ask that you join us in this room. Father, we ask that your presence is here, Father. We ask that you guide to this work session tonight. Father, I ask blessings on our mayor and our city council. Father, it's a blessing to be in this community, and Father, you've gifted these people well, and Father, as they lead us, Father, I pray that they see our community with your heart and with your eyes, Father. Father, I want to take this time to just pray for all of our first responders in our community, Father. And Father, just we ask your protection on them tonight. Father, we love you and thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with you tonight. Again, Father, we love you in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem and Pastor Fields. We appreciate the invocation and the prayers for us. For the announcements and presentations, I'll go over protocol for the evening, and then we will get into the agenda as printed out on the desk if you want a paper copy, or it will be on the screen. I'd like to welcome you to the Douglasville's Legislative Work Session. I'm Douglasville's Mayor, Rochelle Robinson. Tonight's meeting is being conducted in whole or in part by teleconference. Some of our elected officials and individuals on the agenda and those wishing to comment during a public hearing or comments from citizens and delegates will be allowed to do so via Zoom on the software that is, if you're not here and present, you'll be able to do that via Zoom and on Facebook. This open meeting of the Douglasville Mayor and City Council is being conducted by teleconference, consistent with the official code of Georgia annotated section 50-14-1G, due to emergency conditions involving public safety in order to mitigate the transmission of the coronavirus and reduce the risk of COVID-19 illness. That code section, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows local governments to meet in whole or in part by teleconference in the event of emergency, so long as means are afforded for the public to have simultaneous access to the teleconference meeting. And for this meeting, we are convening partially by Zoom software, as shown on the city's website, describing how the public may join, which is via YouTube media platform. Now, I will ask, I know we have a council member that is joining us via Zoom, and I will state your name, and if you can give an indication that you are present, I would greatly appreciate it. So, Councilmember Howard Estes, are you here?
Present, Madam Mayor.
Good to hear you, sir. Is Councilmember Chris Watts on? Assistant City Manager?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll move on. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion and no official action will be taken tonight. Official action will be taken on these items discussed tonight on Monday at 6 p.m. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item comments from citizens and delegates section for you to discuss your business. Just a few more protocol issues that I need to make you aware of, and then we can begin our meeting. I would ask that your comments and presentations, please, you present those on a professional level dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You'll receive a warning from the chair, and if you deviate from this requirement for a second deviation, will result in requests that you will not be able to continue to speak. Only one person speaking at a time, of course. Please do not applaud or react to speakers or speak from the audience, cheer, carry on conversations in the audience, or be disruptive in any way as you're presenting to myself and the council members and the chair. I remind you that we're only required to accept public comments during required public hearings, and this is not a question and answer format or a debate. We're just here to receive your information, and we will take that under consideration as we make our decisions. If you have a cell phone or electronic devices, please put those in silent mode or turn those off until after the meeting so that they will not be disruptive. Now, the agenda items will be handled as the following. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, then that person that's representing that agenda item or applicant will make his or her presentation, and that will be your only opportunity to make your presentation, and then myself and council members will possibly ask clarifying questions to help us make our determination on next Monday. After that, the committee chairperson will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There is a maximum time for this deliberation. There are 20 minutes for those in favor of the item and 20 minutes for those in opposition, and each person has 5 minutes. If we have more people that can take up 20 minutes, then you can split your time up 3 minutes apiece, but in totality, it's 20 minutes per side. Prior to approaching the podium or the microphone that we have now, we ask that you will have filled out a card that's outside on the desk, and that should give your complete name and address. And if you are on Zoom or joining us that way virtually, we ask that you would give your name and address before you speak for the record. And once you fill that card out, if you're here in person, the city clerk, Ms. Vicki Acker, to my right in the rear, will receive that card from you. Each person has one opportunity to speak, no reappearances, and we ask that you would please address your information or your concerns and comments to the chair. And I believe that's it. We don't receive any printed material. If you have anything printed, please give that to the chair as well, to the city clerk as well. And again, it's not a question and answer. We're just here to receive your information, and we're happy to hear from you. And if there is something that's not on the agenda and you'd like to address us at the end of the meeting, under comments for citizens and delegates, we are welcome to hear anything that you have to say. You have 5 minutes, and that's any business that's germane to the city of Douglasville. So I know that's a whole lot of talking, but those are our instructions for the meeting. Now we will go to the agenda, and we'll start at number 5, which is Economic Development Committee, and that's chaired by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business at this time under the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. Finance Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We
You're
have
welcome.
one item tonight. That is to authorize the mayor to sign an option agreement for the sale and purchase of real property with the Douglas County Board of Commissioners for the city's sale of new right-of-way for Stewart Mill Road. Our Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Lynn Woodward, is going to help us with that. There are 3 attachments, and I think there may be someone on a Zoom call also. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mr. Miguel Valentine from Douglas County, he is online to explain as
Would
well.
Mr. Valentine like to do his presentation first? Would that be what you'd like to do, Ms. Woodward?
That works for me.
Pardon?
That works for me.
All righty. Mr. Valentine, are you with us, sir?
Yes, I am.
You have the floor, sir. Would you identify yourself, name and address for the record, please?
Thank you very much. My name is Miguel Valentine. I'm the Director of Transportation for Douglas County. And we have a proposed improvement project at the intersection of Stewart Mill Road and Reynolds. And the project involves adding turn lanes at the intersection. There is going to be no signal at this time, but in order to add turn lanes, we have to widen the pavement, and there are a couple of pipe culverts underneath the road that also have to be lengthened and reconstructed. So in order to do that, there's going to be additional right-of-way and easements required along a stretch of the road, both on Stewart Mill and the Reynolds side, particularly at the corner. And one of the parcels, actually 2 tracts within one of the parcels, are owned by the city, and that is the subject of this item. We had, as we did with all the other parcels along the road that are required, had an appraisal done. The appraisal valued the land based on its ability to be developed and other comparable land sales in the area, and established that that land, based on its limitations for development, is valued at about $5,000 per acre. And based on that, the right-of-way requirement is rather small. And so based on the right-of-way that's required at that valuation of $5,000 per acre, which is a very small fraction. The right-of-way value was established at $135. That would be the fee simple transfer. The easement area is slightly larger, but still very, very small, 0.07 acres. And that valuation typically is done, because it's just an easement, it's not a transfer of the property, is done at 50% of the valuation of the land itself. And therefore, the value for that component is 175. So all told, the valuation for the land that's being impacted by the improvement project is valued at $310. We typically round that up to $500, and that is what we're proposing. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. I'll open the floor. Let's hear from Ms. Woodward as far as any information she would like to share with the group, and then we'll open the floor for discussion. Ms. Woodward.
I don't have additional information, but I would just like to highlight that the pertinent information for you to make a decision would be from pages 14 through 18 of the packet that we attached to the agenda, if you need a quick reference.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Questions, comments from council? Anyone? Madam Mayor, would you have any?
No, sir.
Yes, Ms. Miller?
Unfortunately, I don't have the agenda attached. I've tried to re-upload a couple of times, so I'm just going to kind of go off memory here. I know we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, and we were a little unsure about the appraisal and if we were really comfortable with this appraisal. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at it. I believe Ms. Littlefield sent it to us. It's been about 2 weeks ago now. I looked over it. I was just a little curious to the rest of the council and if you guys were comfortable with this appraisal moving forward with it.
Mr. Miller?
Not being a real estate agent, I would defer to my colleagues who have vastly more experience and are paid better at than I am. It almost strikes me as peculiar that it wouldn't be like a minimum, like an ante sort of a price, and $500 seems a little on the low side, even for a small piece of property. You're not paying just for the value of that physical piece of land, you're paying for the access to it, the inherent value that it brings to the project that it's going to be a part of. The county representative mentioned that it's not developable. Well, actually, it is developable. It's being developed into a street, into a road. So there is an inherent value at that point.
I think Mr. Valentine's point was that the property overall is not developable as to something like a subdivision or a commercial piece or something like that. I think is what he's referring to. But I do agree with you. It would almost be the same ask as to just, would you mind just giving us this right away? As to offer that amount of money for it. And while I do agree that it may not be developable, I do not believe the city bought it with the idea of it ever being developed other than being used as green space. So it may be more valuable as green space to us by the acre than it may be to someone else. I would not want to stand in the way of improvements of the roads to help our citizens that travel that road every day coming out of the city. And so I don't really know that the appraisal, I haven't studied the appraisal a lot, but I see the equations that they have used to get to that point. And I agree with you, Mr. Miller. It seems a little light to me. Anyone else?
Yes, sir, it does seem low, Mr. Chairman, but I know that we are working with our colleagues, our sister government in the county, and trying to, again, like you're saying, improve the roads. And so a lot of times, if it's government to government, you make those concessions. And so that's why I'll just leave it up to legal and to the professional realtors that we have and developers on the council. But whatever we need to try to make it more accessible and better for citizens driving is a good thing.
That's right. Mr. Valentine, the purpose, of course, would be to lengthen the culverts, as you have mentioned, and also to widen the lanes there in order to have turn lanes. You're speaking of turn lanes coming south on Stewart Mill to make a left on Reynolds?
That is correct. And also a left turn on Reynolds to go the other way, I guess, westbound.
Has there been other right-of-way that you have had to acquire from other sources in order to make this
Yes.
project work, or are we the only one?
Absolutely. There's a total of 8 parcels that we've had to acquire. And to the issue of the nominal value, the standard or the nominal value that is offered and typically utilized by GDOT and by the county is $500. So anything that comes in at a valuation less than that, then it gets rounded up to $500. But I guess I'm an engineer, not a realtor either, and I couldn't dispute what the going rate of land ought to be. I know that they look at comparable sales in the past, and but then again, this particular strip is following the same exposure, if you will, to the project as the adjacent properties on either side and on both sides of the road, and we've had to acquire property on all of those as well.
Would it be possible for us to be able to see the prices, comparable prices that were paid to other landowners in the area, just as a way to verify this information? We don't know the appraiser. Obviously, you all have had the property appraised, and we have not. And it may likely be worth more to the city to keep in green space than it would be for us to want to sell it to be developed anyway. So I'm just trying to be fair to all, and I would hope that if the shoe were on the other foot, so to speak, that the county would do the same thing.
Well, we can certainly make available appraisals for the other property, but keep in mind that the other parcels are developable. And so the valuation based on comparable sales are specific to the improvements on each parcel. And so they're going to vary. It's not just going to be an assignment of value based on acreage. It's the area plus whatever improvements are within that parcel. So but we can certainly make it.
I respect your opinion. I respect your opinion on that, Mr. Valentine, but I'm familiar with the property. I know that the same creek that runs under Stewart Mill on the north side of the street where we own property also runs on the south side of the street, and there are properties on both sides of that, and also on the southwest corner. So I would just suggest that we get more information concerning sales prices of other comparable properties in and around that intersection, not somewhere outside in the community. Anything else? We would appreciate you doing that for us. And other than that, if there are any other questions or comments? We thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming in. Before I close out, I'd like to see if Mr. Estes might have some comment there. I'm sorry, Councilman Estes, I forgot about you.
No, that's okay, Mr. Chairman. No questions or comments from me at this time.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Anything else?
Thank you.
All right. That's all that we have tonight, Madam Mayor, under Finance. Thank you again, Mr. Valentine.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's a wise decision. We'll move on to Housing and Community Affairs Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShun Danley. Thank you, ma'am. Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
No business tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Councilman Davis. Personnel and Organization Committee, the chair is Councilmember Watts, and I'll ask the Mayor Pro Tem to take that committee, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Personnel and Organization Committee at this time.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. Planning and Development Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have
welcome.
3 items tonight under Planning and Development. We'll start with item A. Consider a request for final plat approval for the purpose of subdividing into 19 lots, 10.575 acres at Gatesville Parkway and land lot 637, District 1, Section 3, Parcel 1, and land lot 636, District 1, Section 3, Parcel 4. Application by Michelle McCauley of LaCroix Engineering. Ms. Williams and Ms. McCauley have come forward with information. Ms. Williams?
Patrice Williams, Community Development Director, 6701 Church Street. If you recall, you heard this item the last round of meetings. The applicant requested that we pull the item, and so we have it before you tonight. The applicant is LaCroix Engineering, case number PPR 20-004. The applicant is seeking approval of a development plan for the purpose of subdividing into 19 lots out of 10.575 acres. The minimum lot size is 7,500 square feet. The site address is located off of, the property is located off of Gatesville Parkway, which is in Gateway Village. And so the development plan does meet the requirements of the UDO.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. McCauley, did you want to come forward and have something to add?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Michelle McCauley. I am with LaCroix Engineering. We're located at 3475 Corporate Way in Duluth, Georgia. I'm here on behalf of our client, D.R. Horton, for this. This is the final plat for the Gateway Village community. This is the connection when we talked to the last time. This gets us to Maroney Mill, so it completes the subdivision, and we appreciate your support in that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Questions, council, or of anyone? May have a question of Ms. McCauley or of Ms. Williams? Councilman Estes?
No, sir, not right now, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McCauley, you mentioned that this would complete the development. That would be the street that now comes out onto Maroney Mill. So there would be
Correct.
two entrances and exits from the
Right.
development now.
Correct, and we appreciate you being extended. Scott Wilder, who is with WSA, had asked for one correction on an easement, so we had to pull it the last minute, and we made that correction and brought it for you tonight, so.
So we can blame Scott for that delay,
Yeah.
or you can blame Scott for that
No,
delay.
let's not say that on the public record. It was all our fault. Scott Wilder just
Scott's a great
pointed
guy,
out a
no problem.
mistake. So we're good, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Williams, as you had stated, everything within the development plan is approvable, and there's no problem. We're not waiting on anything.
Right, you're correct. I did misspeak. I referred to the development plan, but I meant the final plat.
Okay.
Okay.
Questions, comments? Mr. Miller, I just see the look on your face, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. You want to ask something?
No, I'm just going to say I'm very pleased that there are two entrances to this development. Now, I'm just going to sit back and wait to see the beautiful architecture, the design of the houses that's going to ensue as well.
Very similar to everything else that's built there. It's just the final 19 homes.
Okay. Well, you're just going to hit the ground running on the last one, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all.
The subdivision looks nice.
Yes.
I've been there. You're
Okay.
welcome.
Well, then we'll take that up on Monday for a vote, and we'll move on to item B. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for proposal to a proposed amendment to Articles 1, 2, and 12 of the Unified Development Ordinance, amending various provisions, including those regarding parameters for administrative variances. Ms. Williams?
Patrice Williams, Community Development Director, 6701 Church Street. Ms. Littlefield and Mr. Anderson have spoken to you regarding this item. Essentially, it will add back some information or some authority that the Community Development Director had in our previous codes. And then it also reestablishes the authority of the City Council to hear appeals and interpretations. Sluts will be treated as quasi-judicial proceedings. Rezonings and special land use permits will conform to case law and will adhere to additional standards. That's something new that we've added. So as Mr. Anderson stated at our last round of meetings, our staff reports will get a little thicker. And then it will be permissible to utilize non-conforming facade materials on building additions of existing structures. We had a really good example for you of a downtown business here that's been with us for a long, long time, and they needed a little help on their building. And so we added that to support our businesses here in Douglasville. And then the request will amend typos, omissions, and drafting errors as well. So we ask for your support.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Questions, comments?
We've already discussed this multiple times.
We have discussed this several times. Yes, ma'am. Councilman Estes, did you have anything to question, anything to ask?
No, after the previous discussions, I'm fine with this.
Okay. Ms. Williams, just to expand just a moment, as you said, we did have a local business that needed some help, I believe is the way you put it. And basically, that business was just trying to do an enclosure that was open with a roof over it, and they wanted to enclose it for privacy purposes and use the same materials that had been used when the property was originally built. And under our UDO, they could not do that because of the type of material. Even though they did not need a building permit, they did not need anything except this approval, and so that's the reason that that was added in there, just for us to discuss. But this being a public hearing, we do need to give opportunity for the public to speak. So if we have anyone in the audience that would come forward and speak, first of all, in support of the item, I'd like to hear from you. And if not, if there might be anyone that would speak in opposition, we would welcome you to the podium. Okay, seeing none, then we will close the public hearing, and we will take this up on Monday for a vote. Thank you all. Last item, item C, refer to the Planning Commission a proposed ordinance to amend subsection 2.02C of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow breweries as a permitted use in the CBD Central Business District and as a special use in the RMP Regional Marketplace and GC General Commercial Districts. Ms. Williams, we're going to probably need some help on this one, and I do not have my attachment, so I cannot see anything. It's just gone blank.
Okay.
I'm sure Mr. Sam will like to hear that. Go ahead, Ms. Williams.
Okay, well, I'll make my part quick. So as the item reads, this is a referral to the Planning Commission. As we make changes to the UDO, we always start here with council referring items to the Planning Commission. So again, as the item reads, it will allow breweries in our downtown. Right now, they're not allowed. And so by adding this to our code, we will be able to have breweries here in downtown Douglasville. If you have any questions, I will refer those to our Assistant City Attorney.
Okay, I'll open the floor for discussion, and we'll ask this time Councilman Estes if he'd like to go first, if he might have any question or comment.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, but no, this looks similar to, looks in line with what we had discussed last week, so I am good to go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Madam Mayor, what would you like to ask?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Williams, and you said legal would respond as well. So it does have the ordinance here, and in Section 2, it gives us the manufacturing and talks about what a brewery is beverage manufacturing excluding brew pub and brewery. So it is not a brew pub, it's a brewery, correct?
We're adding breweries, yes, ma'am.
We're adding the brewery to the brew pub. Now, with this, we're allowing it downtown, but there are still the restrictions of the proximity to schools and churches.
And I'll refer to Ms. Woodward.
Okay.
That is correct, and we do have a proposed ordinance that we will be discussing during the Public Safety Committee announcements.
Okay, so that's coming up on C in Public Safety Committee.
That is correct.
That will give us the more details to that. Okay, so I just wanted to make certain, I know that they're complement each other, but not to have this ordinance supersede anything or, go against it's seemingly the will of the council in that, having the proximity for the one that was proposed that was near a school and a church. Mm-hmm. And so we know we have several churches on Church Street, that's why it's called Church Street, and in the downtown area that we could place a brewery, but not in that prohibited space near a church or school.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you so much. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Ms. Miller, did you have something?
No, sir.
Okay.
Madam Mayor asked my questions. Thank you.
Anyone else? All righty. Seeing none, then we'll take this up on Monday for a vote. Madam Mayor, that's all that we have tonight under this committee.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate that information on Planning and Development Committee. We'll move on to Public Improvement and Beautification Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no business this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Public Relations Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Howard Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Public Relations has no business this evening.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on then to Public Safety Committee, and that's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I'd like to move item C around a little bit while Councilman Miller's out. I don't
Yes,
want
sir.
him to keep going back and forth.
Yes,
Okay?
sir.
Thank you. We'll start with item C.
Mm-hmm.
It's adopted ordinance to amend the alcoholic beverage ordinance to revise definition to exempt certain pouring establishment from survey requirements to limit the type of pouring establishment allowed, with the prohibit distance from certain other uses to provide for brewery tap rooms, and to update license fees for malt beverage manufacturer. Ms. Woodward. Item C.
Point of
That's
order,
A
Mr.
on my
Davis. I believe
sheet.
you read item A, but you said item C.
Yeah,
I read item C.
He read
Adopt the
C.
ordinance amending alcoholic beverage.
He read C.
that's
read C.
A on mine.
You want,
Mayor and
Look at
council,
your
you may
paper.
need
Chairman Davis,
to,
that's item A on my screen.
It's C on mine and.
what about on your paperweight?
Mayor and council, you may need to refresh your item. The clerks were able to transfer those items around, so item A is now item C, and item C is not item A.
So the item you read is item A now, even though on the paper and on my screen it says C2.
Mine says C too.
Okay, but it's A.
It's A?
A, B,
Okay.
C, D, E, F, G. It's A.
Okay, we good?
Okay, yes,
Okay,
sir.
well, let's hear from Ms. Woodward.
Lynn Woodward, Assistant City Council, City Attorney. So we are proposing an ordinance that would amend our current alcoholic beverage ordinance to, first of all, we would like to amend the fees for malt beverage manufacturer activities, because we are going to allow tap rooms to start pouring malt beverages, so we would like to propose to increase the license fees to $1,000 to be on par with what brew pubs are being assessed. In addition to that, we are limiting types of pouring establishments that are allowed within the prohibited distance from certain other uses, such as church buildings and school grounds, as well as updating the current ordinances to also refer to housing authority grounds to be consistent with the Georgia statute. And we're also updating our definition of measure so that it provides more clarity as to how we're measuring the distance from the door of the pouring establishment or the brewery to the prohibited, to the other church and school grounds.
Okay. Madam Mayor, question from the council?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. So, Ms. Woodward, in this section 5, it talks about, in section 5A1, that church buildings is 300 feet, and then schools, collegiate campuses is 600 feet, and that is in compliance with the state?
That is correct. For the state, there is not a prohibited distance for church buildings, but we may impose our own ordinance for that.
So one doesn't say 300 feet of any church building?
For the state,
For this proposed ordinance for us in section 5A1?
for us, it does state 300 feet of any church building.
Okay. So what is the state one that are we adopting the state as well in compliance with ours in addition to what we have?
We are not. For the state, at the state level, they only prohibit distilled spirits from being within a certain distance of a church building, but they don't have any prohibitions for malt beverages in relations to church buildings. But we are allowed to have our own ordinance to add that restriction.
Okay, because I think that's what we discussed at our planning session, is that we wanted to have those same restrictions. I apologize. I told everybody to turn their phones off. I thought I turned off. We have those, we wanted those same restrictions for spirituous as well as ale, as well as beer, because with this brewery, it's going to be like a wine tasting, like, not Callaway, but I can't think of it, Chateau Elan, that you'll go there and they're manufacturing the beer and you'll taste different beers at the brewery.
Correct.
So we wanted to make certain that it was not, since you don't have to have a food ratio, that it was not adjacent to a school or a church.
Correct.
And so we have this provision for 300 feet. I just want to make sure that what we're voting on, and I may be confused, but is that correct?
That is correct. This ordinance, Section 5, will prohibit a brewery from being within 300 feet of any church building.
Okay, and then we just cleaned up everything to talk about exactly where it's going to be measured from, and we're allowing brew pubs and breweries, and they're talking about the difference in pouring and all of that kind of stuff.
That is correct.
Okay, that's a whole lot. I hope I didn't confuse everyone, but trying to get it straight in my mind. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Councilman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Davis. Ms. Woodward, I guess my question is just so that we're not using a play on words here, and the mayor has touched on this. My concern is that any alcoholic beverage manufacture, distribution, sale on the premises, sale by the glass, whatever that might be, does Section 5 prohibit all of those uses, or is there a loophole for a brewery, brew pub, whatever you may want to call it? Is there any allowance of that somewhere else in the ordinance that would allow those to, some type of those, using a play on words, to be within or less than these distances in Section 5?
I don't believe so, because Section 5 is really tied to our definition of pouring outlets. Currently, our ordinance only allows 3 types of pouring outlets, which are restaurants, hotel and hotel lounges, and private clubs. The reason we are carving out this from the ordinance is to make sure that restaurants can still be within 300 feet of a church, or a private club that pours can be within 300 feet of churches, but not a brewery.
Well, my concern is, in some of these discussions we've had over the last couple of weeks, there seems to be a lot of different animals under the purview of a brewery, a brew pub, something, and I know that there had been some discussion that one of those animals was exempt from these types of things. Now, I'm not familiar with it, but it was disturbing to me to find out in our discussions that one of these animals does not require a food ratio. So basically, you are there specifically for consumption of alcohol only, and you are not required to serve food, okay? Which, in my feeble mind, that may not be, but I'm old. It sounds like a bar, okay? So I'm just trying to make sure that, pardon?
No, we're just laughing.
I'm just trying to make sure that we are protecting and respecting the churches and the schools with any type of alcohol service. The constituents in my ward, and this area happens to be largely in my ward, are concerned that we would allow any of those establishments within the area, within those distance limits by footage, where their children go to church and or go to school. And I just want to make sure that there's not some loophole here that says, no, you cannot do a brewery, but you can do a brew pub, or you can do a brewery, but not a brew pub. And I just want to make sure it's all inclusive of service of alcohol, whether it be wholesale, retail by the glass, retail by the jug. You can take so many gallons with you in a whatever it may be. I want to make sure that we are prohibiting that under Section 5 to those distances.
Right, and our definitions for pouring outlets and restaurants, hotel lounges, and private clubs are very clear, and they do have certain restrictions, such as they have to have a seating capacity of X numbers, or they have to provide X number of housing for hotel purposes, or they have to have a sales ratio of food. So I
Okay.
think this is pretty stringent.
Okay, thank you. That's all that I had, Mr. Davis. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Councilman Estes?
No, thank you, I'm good.
Okay,
So
Madam Mayor?
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. So manufacturing, we didn't say manufacturing.
A manufacturer is not allowed to pour under normal circumstances, absent this ordinance. And only pouring outlets are allowed to be within the church and the schools.
I'm kind of feeling like a loophole.
Can I assist you a little bit?
Yes, ma'am.
What we've got here is us trying to preserve what you've had before and simply fit breweries into the picture, because we haven't had to deal with them before. They are a hybrid. They make beer and they sell it by the drink when they can. So what we've done here is to preserve what you had before, which is that there is no prohibited distance to churches for restaurants and other types of consumption on the premises, such as hotels and brew pubs. Brew pubs sell food. What we're doing here is to simply say that exemption from the prohibited distance is limited to those that we've had before, and naming what they are, so that when we create this, when we say exactly what a brewery is, we're going to classify it with manufacturing only, not with restaurants or brew pubs. As manufacturing, it will have to be outside that prohibited distance.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Madam Mayor, that's all I have. I put this on the agenda for Monday, for a vote.
Oh, Councilman
Okay,
Burden.
I'm sorry, but,
I'm sorry, I don't have a microphone, so hopefully you all can hear me. So, I just want to make sure too that we're on the same page, and please forgive me if I sound redundant. So what we currently have is not going to, what we currently have as far as the distance, this new ordinance, is it decreasing the distance?
No, it changes the method of measuring it to what the state uses, which is not very much different than what you already had. But it does not decrease the distance for anything.
And how will we adequately monitor?
We request applicants to send in a survey, and also breweries would not be exempt from the survey requirement.
So there's an affidavit, I'm assuming, with the survey, or we wouldn't have to monitor by physically going in and checking?
The survey has to be done by a licensed surveyor. Yes.
okay. All right, that's all I have, Madam Mayor. I'd like to put this on the agenda for Monday for a vote.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving right along. Someone tell Mr. Miller he can come on back. Councilman Miller.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Miller. Madam Mayor, we start with item A. I'd like to make a motion to remove from the table from February 1st, 2021, item number 21-021.
Okay.
Okay. Table from February 1st, 2021, hold a public hearing to consider a request for alcoholic beverage license for the on-premise sale and consumption of wine and malt beverage and the spirit liquor at the following establishment: Licensing Allure Lounge, LLC, DBA Allure Lounge, location 7090 Concord Parkway, Suite B, proposed agent outlet manager Stephanie Harris, and the required fees have been paid in the finance department. Ms. Harris, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, how are you?
You can state your name and,
Stephanie Harris, 790 Concourse Parkway, Suite B, Douglasville, Georgia, 30134.
okay. Ms. Williams, can you come up? Are we good with the license? And Ms. Callan?
All right. Patrice Williams, Community Development Director, 6701 Church Street.
Okay, so everything been cleared up and Mike Mettler approved everything?
That's correct. You should have a memo from Mr. Mettler. It kind of outlines, I think maybe starting February 2nd, regarding he went out with a visit with Mr. Harris. He found some things. He went back for a follow-up inspection. And so as it relates to the kitchen and the electrical panel, they're good to go. There is a mention of a stage, but that could be dealt with later. There's no reason to hold it up on our end.
Okay, I read the, and Ms. Callan, we good? Any questions from the council? Mayor and council? Madam Mayor?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And so this is what we've heard at our last round of meetings, and that there was a separate entrance and you're connected to another business. But at the time, we didn't know that there was a separate entity to the restaurant. And so if you can just clear that up to remind the council. I don't know who wants to speak, Ms. Callan or?
I don't know where we at, Madam Mayor.
Did you want to respond to her question on the status of the renovations?
The status of the renovations, they're all
Yes, ma'am.
complete. They're all complete. As
So
far as
you're-
what he found for the city, the electrical panel, it's been labeled. I think he came out the next day and cleared everything and approved it.
Okay. All right, so there are two separate entities now. And
That's correct, Mayor. It's good to go. Mr. Mettler found the kitchen in good standing. There are no issues with what they've done. So, again, the inspection passed.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and Madam Mayor, I'd like to put this on a consent agenda for Monday, so they won't have to come back if this council will, so they can go ahead and get busy. Okay?
See any objections?
Thank you. Thank you all for coming back out. And good luck. Okay, item B, hold a public hearing to consider application for the alcoholic beverage license for the retail package sale of wine and malt beverage at the Spirits Liquor at the following establishment. Proposed licensing, NEMA 4 LLC and the DBA Blue Bottle Shop, location 3869 Chapel Hill Road. Proposed agent outlet manager, Bakir Patel, and the required fees have been paid into the finance department. Would the applicant please come down? State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and all the City Council members. I am Neema Patel. I'm the owner of the company, and he's my husband. He's going to be the outlet manager of the company. I request the council members to consider our new business package store. And I'm going to handle the accounting, finance, and payroll in the company. I'm going to handle the accounting, finance, and the payroll in the company, and my husband is going to handle in-house operations and managing and training new employees.
And the gentleman you have with you?
Yes.
Her husband.
Good evening all. My name is Viral Kumar Patel, and she is my wife. I'll be the agent outlet manager for the business name as a Blue Bottle LLC, Blue Bottle Shop LLC. And I have an experience of 2 years in gas station and liquor store. And I'll be managing the business and training my employees and doing the business inside. Yeah.
Okay, so you would be the manager?
Yeah, agent outlet manager, I'll be the manager. Yeah.
Agent outlet manager, okay. Ms. Callan, is everything good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the license and all? Okay. Mayor and council?
I just want to hold a public hearing first and then ask questions, or you want us to ask now, Councilman Davis?
We can ask questions now before we hold a public hearing.
This is a new business?
Yes, it's a new business.
And you're saying your husband's experience, you've been for a couple of years at the gas station?
And a liquor store of my family business.
Okay. How do you check for ID for those allowed to purchase alcohol?
Yeah, in our system is whenever someone buy the alcohol product or tobacco product, we need to enter the date of birth. So I identify the ID with the face, and I make sure the ID is not fake, and I accept all IDs accepted by the ordinance, and we make sure we don't sell to any underage person.
Underage? Okay.
Yeah, I did like 2 years, and I have a good record for selling tobacco and spirit products. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Councilman Adams?
Yes, Mr. Davis, I was just curious if we've ever had a situation like this. You and I were talking about this prior to this meeting. Is there any investigation that's ever done where a deed restriction on a property would prevent the sale of alcohol or the sale of a specific type business on a particular parcel? Maybe Ms. Callen could answer, or Ms. Littlefield, or you all, either of you familiar with any of those limitations? Do we even investigate for those types of things?
No, Mr. Adams, we don't. If there are private deed restrictions restricting the uses of property, that's a matter that is raised by the party that put the restriction on usually. That's not a situation where we run a title search or anything to see if there are any.
I don't know why, I just had some recollection from years back that the corners there, these four corners, had been reserved to where there would not be alcohol sold on those for some reason. It may be, I may be having this flashback in error, but I
don't know about that particular occasion, but some years ago, we had a situation where someone made a request, and a private party came and pointed out that there was a deed restriction, and we didn't issue the license. I don't know whatever happened to that. They may have gone to court, but we didn't issue the license once we learned that, but it wasn't anything we discovered.
Okay, would there be a reason that we would want to pursue that in this case?
Well, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I mean, we don't run title checks on any other kind of business we do, so I mean, that
So
would be a
someone-
matter for the council to determine, but,
So someone connected to that who maybe possibly had lobbied for the deed restriction would need to come to the public hearing and let it be known?
yes,
Okay.
and private covenants, you can put a restriction in a deed one of two ways. You can make a specific restriction, or you can do something called a covenant. But you usually don't see covenants in commercial property.
Right.
Although most of those covenants have to do with parking, access easements, this kind of thing. I've never seen an alcohol restriction in a commercial covenant in Douglas County. I'm not saying they're not. I've just never seen one.
Thank you. That's all that I had, Mr. Davis. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone, Madam Mayor?
I apologize, I don't mean monopolize the conversation, but Councilman Adams did bring something to my attention I thought we were going to talk about later with Mr. Dotson as well as legal. We did receive some, Mr. and Mrs. Patel, we have received some correspondence from citizens concerned about the proximity of your business to schools and churches. It's on Church Street. But Mr. Dotson, it's inside of the Kroger shopping plaza, and there's beer and wine sold at the Kroger shopping plaza now, currently, isn't there?
Yes.
At Kroger?
Yep.
How about the one on Highway 92?
No, sir, on Chapel Hill Road at the Kroger, on Central Church in Chapel Hill.
Yes, ma'am. They sell beer and wine there.
Yes.
And that's where this facility,
Yes,
your business will be located inside of?
Yes, same in that Kroger's, in front of Kroger, there is a strip where have other businesses like Subway and everything, so next to the Subway.
Okay, next to the subway?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we also surveyed everything,
Mhm.
and we fall under the procedures of the city.
Okay. And before the meeting, I did talk with staff, and we don't have a restriction on how many alcohol places within this certain proximity.
No.
So just trying to make certain that they fit within the code. All right, that's,
Yeah, and there is no another business nearby, like 10, 15 miles. Yeah, or it's
yeah, but you know, the shopping plaza's there, and then it's the fire station, and Chapel Hill Middle School is right next, adjacent to the to the shopping plaza.
Yeah,
So
but we
that was some
surveyed
of
the
the
distance. Distance is like school and our business, distance is more than we require. So it's it's quite distance, so it's.
Mhm. I think Harvester is around the corner as well, so.
It's
All right.
directly behind it.
Yes.
Because the children actually walk in the woods oftentimes between, like after school, but for basketball practice, they kind of
Mhm.
walk through the woods to go to Kroger and get snacks and Gatorades. So they would be walking right in the parking lot with the liquor store.
Mhm.
And I've also received the emails from residents who
Mhm.
are not happy, or they
Yeah.
have valid concerns with this
Mhm.
particular location. Not necessarily with the business concept, but with the location, because there are actually 3 schools right there. The private school, Omega, is directly
Mhm.
across the street from Chapel Hill Middle School. Then you have Chapel Hill Middle School, and then Harvester Christian that's right behind it.
Yeah. And then the Kroger Shopping Plaza, you have to actually go inside the plaza, the shopping facility, the grocer.
Right.
And get checked out that way. So I understand. Just letting you know some of the concerns. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I
Councilman
had.
Terry Miller?
Yeah, I guess I have a question posed to our police department. Do we have any instances of kids going into Kroger and successfully buying alcoholic beverages?
No, sir.
I didn't think so. I mean, you have to go into the liquor establishment to buy liquor, just as you would have to go into Kroger.
Right.
And both my kids went to Chapel Hill Middle School, and I'm not aware of any time they ever went into Kroger to buy liquor, unless I asked them. No, I didn't. So, I think it's a little overblown, the concern about too many alcohol establishments within a certain radius. I mean, in downtown, we have a half a dozen restaurants that's all sell alcohol, all within a block or two of each other, so, like I said, unless there was some history of incidences where that's been a problem, I think I would understand that. But if the kids at Chapel Hill Middle School seem to be behaving themselves, I'm not as concerned, I guess. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Estes?
In theory, I have no problem with this. But since we do have some blowback from residents, I would like to hear from them before pursuing, any questions or comments on this.
Okay, sir, at this time, we have to hold a public hearing.
Councilman.
Oh,
Bert
okay,
Danley.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Chairman Davis, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you so much for your comments. I just want to say, and this is just my conviction, is that there are certain things in cities and towns where we live that I believe should still be sacred. And that's just about as plain as I can say it. Not to say that children are not safe, that there have not been any incidents, but even if, thank goodness, there have not been any incidents, and unless there's been a report that there have been students or children that have purchased alcohol, you probably wouldn't get that, but the thing that bothers me would be the adults that purchase alcohol for individuals that are underage. And it's really hard to be able to identify that, unfortunately. But I just believe that there are certain things that are just sacred. And for some, that may not change for a long time. Not anything personal, but I can't say it any other way. That's about how I
understand.
can say it. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Anyone else before we hold our public hearing? Are we good? At this time, we take about 5 minutes to hold a public hearing, and 5 minutes for those who speak against you having your license, and 5 minutes to speak for your license. And now open up the floor for those who speak for. Assistant Manager, have anyone online?
Yes, you do have 3 individuals online who would like to speak in opposition.
Okay. So since we don't have anyone to speak for, and open up for the ones that speak against.
You all can
Okay.
have a seat if you like. You can have a seat and want others maybe want to come forward.
The first individual that signed up to speak in opposition of this is Ms. Tarenia Carthen. Just verifying you can hear us. Please state your first and last name and proceed with your comments, please.
My name is Tarenia Carthen, and I want to thank the council and the mayor for allowing me to voice my opposition for approval of this liquor license. I oppose this license as it just would not benefit our neighborhoods, our schools, or our churches in that area. I would even venture to say that giving this liquor license approval will hurt the potential of other businesses in that area. This would go right next to a Subway where kids will come after school, probably even during lunch if they're allowed to leave campus, and to just put a liquor store right next to that family-friendly establishment, just in my judgment, is not good. This is an area where you are surrounded by families, and the applicant seems to maybe not have considered why there is no liquor store within 15 miles or so. We have many well-developed and nice subdivisions around there, and I just would not want to see this type of business in the midst of Chapel Hill. The liquor store is already being, it would compete with Kroger and Publix. But the most important reason why I oppose it is simply because it just would be in walking distance to both the public and the private schools. And I say we have a standard in Chapel Hill, and allowing this liquor license to be approved would be lowering that standard. And I tell you, once you've lowered the standard of an area, it is hard to build it back up. So I simply ask that you deny this liquor license application and keep the area of Chapel Hill, its families, and our community headed in the right direction. For positive growth and beneficial business and beneficial developments for all citizens. Pastor Phil said it best at the beginning. He said it is a blessing to live in this community. I serve this community. I live here for 21 years. I have a business here. And a liquor store on Chapel Hill just doesn't fit with the vision and the direction that we want to see our city go in. I thank you for listening and taking my concerns into consideration, and I hope during Monday's vote that you vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carthen.
The next individual that signed up is Ms. Donetta Booker. If you please unmute your mic, state your first and last name, your address for the record, and you will proceed with your comments.
Yes, my name is Donetta Booker. I'm at 4747 Pepper Tree Lane, Douglasville, 30135. And thank you for having me and allowing me to speak. I am also in opposition of the liquor store being located on Chapel Hill Road next to the Subway for all the reasons that Commissioner Carthen has already so eloquently stated. And I also want to add a few more items. Its overwhelming research states that high densities of liquor stores in neighborhoods is directly correlated to an increase in crime. The Arabelle Foundation listed a study where they found that you can expect a 2.2% increase in crime for every one alcohol outlet in a community. And right now, I love where I live. This is my community. I love where I live. It's safe, it's quiet, it's nice, everyone's friendly. And I think putting a liquor store right there in the middle of a residential area is not going to do anyone any good. And once you start that, and if more come, it's just going to be a downward decline. So I think the best way to prevent any of this from happening is to stop it before it even starts. And also, too, it's been studies linked that easy access to liquor stores also has an increase in violent youth crime as well. And that's something that we definitely don't want to have. So again, it is not conducive to have it there for the future of a family-friendly neighborhood. So I would like for you to oppose granting the license and oppose having the liquor store there for all of those reasons. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Booker.
Anyone else? Ms. Candace?
Yes, sir. There is one more individual, Mr. Jeffrey Murphy. If you please state your first and last name, your address for the record, and proceed with your comments.
My name is Jeff Murphy. I reside at 4275 Wyndham Court, Douglasville, Georgia, 30135. Thank you for allowing me to speak in opposition to this liquor license and the placement of a liquor store there on Chapel Hill Road next to our subway. Ditto to all the comments that have been made by Ms. Booker and our Commissioner Carthen. And to bring up the sheer fact, and I heard the comments from council members about Kroger already sells beer and wine, but Kroger does not sell liquor, spirituous liquor. And Kroger also sells food, and people go into Kroger to buy groceries mainly. And going to a liquor store, there's no food being sold there. Maybe some snacks, but beyond that, it's really about the sale of alcoholic beverages. And with this close proximity to our schools and our neighborhoods there, again, it does not do anything to promote that family-friendly area as people are moving in and moving out, building new homes, buying homes, and so forth. It just doesn't work. Being next door to a subway, if I've lived in this neighborhood since 1997, and have frequented that subway many days on Sundays after church for lunch, and that subway pre-coronavirus used to be filled with young people and families picking up lunch. I know, working with our youth group at our church that's right down the street at Shepherd of the Hills, I picked up lunch there almost every Sunday for our youth group, for those kids. And so having to do that next to a liquor store, I don't think buys into the aesthetics and the mindset that we're trying to get across in our community. So I would ask the city council to deny this liquor license. I think there's a better place for that business, and right there at the corner of Chapel Hill and Central Church is probably not the best choice. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Mercury.
No, sir. There's no one else to speak.
At this time, we're going to close the public hearing, and you come back on Monday, and we'll give you an answer, okay? Madam Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Committee, and that's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts. The vice chair is Councilmember Sam Davis.
Mm-hmm. City of Douglasville for the period of April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022 for display of an F-105D aircraft and at the City Airplane Memorial in Hunter Park. Ms. Chelsea?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a routine agreement that we've done for several years, a loan agreement between the United States Air Force and the City of Douglasville. This is for a one-year period for the city's airplane that's at Hunter Memorial Park.
Okay.
Any question from the mayor and council? It's something that we do every year. We good? Can I put this on the consent agenda? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Moving right along, authorize the mayor to sign a service agreement with Tim Pope for umpire and sports officiating services at the city park. Mr. Bass.
Jesse
Ms.
Mosley, athletic coordinator, 8830 Gurley Road. We are looking to renew our contract with Mr. Tim Polk of Game Time Officials. He's been our officials for quite a long time now. I think he's been a contractor of the city since 2012. His services would be for our adult basketball league and our adult softball league. His services are for umpiring, refereeing, scorekeeping, and clock keeping.
Okay, any question from the mayor and council? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. Ms. Mosley, it's good to see you. I do have a question about COVID procedures in regards to basketball and softball and all the other activities. And this will take place at Hunter Park, correct?
So it's at both parks, Jesse Davis and
Jesse
Hunter
Davis
Park.
and
So
Hunter.
the basketball league is at Jesse Davis Park, and the softball league is at Hunter Park.
Okay. You have those, whatever the criteria or whatever is in place, could you just give us a quick description of how everything works and how we're going to keep community safe? For basketball, I don't know how you're going to do it for basketball.
If you give me just
What?
1 second.
Do they sign a waiver? Do, you know?
So they do, everyone that registers has to sign a waiver, and that's for any of our sports, including our youth sports. So some of the guidelines that we're putting in place for the adult leagues especially, there's no spectators in the gym, it's just the players, captains, refs, and the staff. They don't have to wear their mask while they're in physical exertion, so while they're playing the sport. But as soon as they leave the court, they have to put their mask on. So when they're sitting on the sidelines, on the bench, coming into the gym, when they're not warming up or on the court, they have to wear their mask. And then with softball, it's a similar situation. There will be no, other than the players and the captains, the officials, staff, there's not supposed to be any other spectators. The same thing will be for them. As soon as they leave the field, they have to wear their masks. And that's one of the biggest regulations for basketball. Since it's indoors, they do get their temperature scanned on the way into the gym. And there's hand sanitizing stations placed throughout, and everyone's social distancing. So including with the chairs on the sideline for the teams, those are spread apart for social distancing as well.
Okay, so they have their temperatures checked, but they don't have COVID tests before they come to play their teams or anything like that?
Correct. So they just, they get their temperatures checked, and the staff person kind of scans them for their symptoms. We do have a policy in place for that all the players had to sign. If they do test positive for coronavirus, then their team, as well as their opposing team that they played within the past week, are suspended for 14 days. They are required to notify our staff. The gym is closed for any type of athletic use for at least 48 hours to allow time for that area to be cleaned. And then all of the participants on that team have to provide a test result, a negative test result, to come back and play in the league.
Okay. I guess I'm kind of passionate about this because I had COVID last year and I was asymptomatic, and now my nephew in Savannah plays basketball and he was asymptomatic and didn't know he had COVID, and now the whole team is, you know, people are sick. So it just makes me a little bit nervous. I know you said we're going to socially distance when you sit down, but when you're playing, if you haven't had a test before and you don't know, when you're asymptomatic, you can, you know, definitely with all the droplets and you're playing basketball, it's going to be kind of difficult. It happened, you know, a little more socially distanced with softball, but basketball's different. And these are adults, so we're trusting that people are going to take care of their health. It's a little different from young people. But okay, that's all I had. Thank you so much, Ms. Mosley. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Anyone else, council? I got one question. When you do that basketball league, how many teams are allowed to be in at one time?
So it's only the two playing teams at one time. So normally the games will be starting on every hour, and now we've spaced them apart so that if the game is running over, then we keep the teams outside of the gym, outside of the facility before they're allowed to come in. They're kind of staggered so that there's not more than the teams that need to be in there at one time. So it's just the two teams that are playing.
And are they allowed to bring their families or no spectators?
No spectators.
Okay. All right, if the mayor and council like to put this on the consent agenda for Monday, they've been doing a good job with the referees, and they've been here a long time. Thank you.
Mr. Davis, if I
Yes,
might
sir.
ask, simply because Coach Watts is not here as the chair of that committee, and we haven't heard his feelings on it. I would prefer, if we could, to not put it on the consent agenda, but to have discussion on it on Monday prior to a vote, if that's okay.
Okay.
So I would not be in favor of being on the consent
Put
agenda.
it back on the agenda, put it back on the agenda for Monday, please, for vote. That's
Okay.
all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. We'll go to Technology Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business at this time on the Technology Committee.
Thank you, sir. Transportation Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShun Danley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We have one item tonight under the Transportation Committee. It's adopt a resolution authorizing the Community Development Department to file an application with the Atlanta Regional Commission for a supplemental study livable centers initiative program, which is also known as the LCI. And this is something that we do annually, so this April.
Yeah, so we are looking at trying to supplement for additional funding with the ARC to offset the cost. Mayor and council have dedicated to their current budget cycle $65,000 for an LCI update. As you are aware, we have numerous plans that have been recently adopted in the LCI study area. If you're interested as far as the LCI study area, Ms. Jackson can always send you the physical map, just so you're interested in the boundary lines. But our goal here would be to identify if the boundary lines need to be adjusted in any way. And we want to make sure that we're adding all plans, such as the North Side Trail System Plan, the Downtown Bike and Pedestrian Connectivity Plan, Arts Master Plan, Wayfinding Gateway and Signage. As you can tell, again, a lot of plans. So we want to make sure we can put in for funding through the ARC for these projects as we get them. So it would be a $35,000 potential savings should you be awarded the fund.
And from my understanding, I don't think we have not ever been awarded, just as far as I can remember. Is that correct?
As far as a LCI supplemental, you have been awarded, in 2001, you had a supplemental study that when you first, of course, started the LCI program, you were awarded, I can't remember the actual figures, and then in 2011, you were actually awarded $50,000.
So it may not always be what we request, but we're
It's
pretty much-
something.
yes. Okay. Are there any comments?
Yes, Ms. Danley,
Yes,
I
sir.
just had a question concerning the boundaries of that. I know, were we not trying to expand our LCI study area to include the present Fairburn Road and Hospital Drive area on top of what we already had been given or were doing? Is that a part of this?
Yes, sir, absolutely. So that will be a secondary, we want to look at the boundary lines as far as the study is concerned. There's a primary line and a secondary line. The primary line is downtown central. Secondary line will encompass parts of Rose Avenue up into the New Horizons community and then down towards the Fairburn Road area as well. It cuts off right there at Hospital Drive, but nonetheless, we want to examine to make sure that because all these plans are in place, we don't want to have an area that's not encompassed so that, we might not be awarded funding.
And I know it appears from what you've told us about previous times we've been awarded, that sounds like about a 10-year cycle.
Yes,
And
every
this
10
would
years.
This would be our 10th year, 21, so hopefully we'd be awarded that. Thank you. That's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Mayor, anyone else?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay, thank you. If there aren't any other comments or questions, I would like to put this on the consent agenda for Monday. Okay?
Okay, I don't see
Thank
any
you.
opposition.
All right, no other items, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. We'll move on then to other business. Is there any other business to come before council tonight from council members from the elected body?
Madam Mayor, I'd like
Yes,
to just
ma'am.
make a comment. I've uploaded, and I'm going to send it to the mayor and council in regards to the statistics as it relates to drug-free and these statistics that show that when there are certain businesses that are in neighborhoods, how that it coincides with homicide with our young adults. So I just wanted to give you the information so that you can look at it.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
There was a great report given, end-of-the-year report from the police department. Major Davison was on the call with Captain Stafford and the chief, and it was well-attended, and they did an end-of-the-year report, and it was great. I think it was Tuesday night that they provided that report to the citizens. I received a lot of comments back from people. I didn't know people were on. They may have looked at it after or something, but I did receive some positive comments about the end-of-the-year report, so I want to thank the police department for that, their town hall that they had in the end-of-the-year report on Tuesday. So we'll go on to updates from city staff. Our city attorney, Mr. Joel Dotson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Chief Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Susan Littlefield.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move on to Ms. Woodward. Do you have anything? Thank you, ma'am. Our Police Department, Major Davison.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Our City Manager's Office, Ms. Chelsea Jackson.
Yes, ma'am, I have a couple of announcements. Just one for clarification for item number 21-021. Councilman Davis did ask for it to be placed on the consent agenda, but it'll be unable to be placed on the consent agenda because on Monday night, it has to be removed from the table. So I just want to let you all know you will not see it on the consent agenda for that purpose.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, of course, City Manager Marsha Hinton, she is currently the Georgia City County Managers Association President. So she hosted that board here at the Conference Center today and tomorrow. Ms. Mary Shaw is also the facilitator. She facilitated the Mayor and Council strategic planning session last week. And Ms. Mary Shaw just wanted me to let you all know that she's back and she said hello.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure our city manager is doing a wonderful job as the president, and it's great that all the city and county managers in the state of Georgia will be able to come to Douglasville if they're doing the ones in person. I think they have the option of virtual and in person, but the ones that are in person are able to see our beautiful city. So that's great. Thank you so much, Ms. Jackson. We'll move on to staff reports. Do we have any staff reports? Ms. Jackson?
No, ma'am, no staff reports.
Thank you. Comments from citizens and delegates. Do we have anyone else that's on the line that would like to speak to us?
No, ma'am, no one else signed up to speak.
Thank you so much. Councilman Estes, do you have anything?
No, not at
Okay.
all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, if we don't have any other business, council members, is your finger up, Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem? Oh, you're just pensive. You're thinking, okay. Okay. We don't have any other business to come before myself and council members then tonight. This meeting is adjourned.